Welcome to my channel, Simon Meow Show, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Simon, a creator, podcaster, and blogger. I'm here to kick Joe Rogan and Lex Fridman's asses because they'll never have guests like this. The name of today's guest is well known to all of you. Please welcome the great English writer, Edgar Allan Poe.
Actually, I'm an American poet.
Yeah, okay, American. I just started reading your biography. Sorry, dude. Introduce yourself while I prepare for the podcast.
All right, I think I'll do just that. Greetings, everyone. My name is Edgar Allan Poe. I am a renowned American poet. I left behind a legacy, not just lines of verse, but shadows creeping through the souls of those who seek, yearning for truth in rhymes woven from sorrow and madness.
All right, we got it. Just tell us, how do you like it here?
It's quite nice here. Thank you for inviting me. This is a bit unusual for me, I must say. I feel somewhat uneasy sitting next to this strange contraption.
Come on, Poe, relax. These things around aren't going to harm you. By the way, I'm almost ready for our podcast. I fed Wikipedia's article about you into ChatGPT and asked it to give me 10 interesting facts about your biography. If you don't mind, I'll go through them.
Yes, please.
Interesting fact number 1, you were born in Boston and lost your mother at an early age. Your father left the family, and you were separated from your biological brother and sister. That's some seriously tragic shit. Then you were taken in by the wealthy Allan family.
Yes, that part of my life had a profound impact on me and my work. Perhaps that's why there's so much darkness in my writing.
That's for sure. So how are the Allans?
They gave me a name, shelter, and an education. But the coldness of their hearts could never replace a real family. To them, I was more of an obligation than a son.
Come on, dude. No need to be so pessimistic. At least you became a great writer. And hey, you must have inherited a nice fortune, right?
Inheritance? Alas, all I was left with were debts and sorrow. A great writer, perhaps, but at what cost?
Man, you really are a gloomy guy. All right, moving on. Fact number 2. Whoa, let me say right away, we do not approve of this. In 1835, you married your cousin, Virginia Clem, who was 13 years younger than you. Wasn't there someone a bit older and less cousin-y?
The heart wants what it wants, Simon. Virginia was not just my wife. She was my muse, my quiet refuge in a world where I always felt like an outsider.
Where did you two meet?
We met in Baltimore when I was living with her mother, my aunt, Maria Clem. Virginia was still a child back then, but as the years passed, she became the closest person to me, a bright ray of light in my otherwise dark existence.
So back then in America, cousin marriages were normal?
In those days, such marriages were not uncommon, especially in small communities. Society viewed them differently than today. The priority was to keep the family together and take care of loved ones.
I would never marry my cousin Cleo. We used to roll around in the same blanket as kids. Ew.
I understand your disgust, Simon. But to me, Virginia was not just a cousin. She was a soul, intertwined.
Yeah, I got it. And did you at least live happily ever after?
Happiness was fleeting, but suffering, endless. Virginia fell ill with tuberculosis, and for years I watched as life slowly drained from her. It was the cruelest torture fate ever bestowed upon me.
That's awful. Your life is just pure sadness. I should have read your biography beforehand and invited someone more cheerful. Like Hemingway, he probably had tons of stories about Cuban girls.
Oh, Hemingway. He drank rum under the sun and hunted big fish, while I drank absinthe in the shadows of my nightmares. But know this, Simon. Darkness has its own poetry. Not everyone is ready to hear it.
All right, moving on. Fact number 3. Despite his fame, Poe lived in poverty. His most famous poem, The Raven, 1845, earned him only $9 in royalties. How did you manage to stay broke? Wasn't there any equivalent of YouTube back in your day?
If I had even the ghost of YouTube, perhaps I would have read my poems on camera and lived in luxury. But alas, literature in my time couldn't even feed the most talented of us. Publishers paid mere pennies, pirated copies spread without my knowledge, and fame was nothing but an empty sound, incapable of filling a purse.
Let me Google Stephen King's net worth real quick. Whoa, $500 million. That's roughly how much you could have made in today's world.
Oh, Simon, but in my time, fear didn't sell for such a high price. If I lived today, perhaps my shadows would have taken on a golden glow. But back then, art was a curse, not a business.
I still think you did something wrong. You just don't have that entrepreneurial spirit, dude. You were given wealthy guardians, great talent, and you flushed it all down the drain.
Entrepreneurial spirit? I wrote to live, not lived to earn. The money is long gone, but the Raven is still being read. So perhaps, after all, it wasn't in vain.
Let's agree to disagree. In my opinion, you could have been as big as Stephen King. And I think there's a reason for your poverty. That brings us to interesting fact number 4. The American writer had serious issues with alcohol. He would send letters to editors while drunk, demanding recognition of his talents and fair payment. This ruined his relationships with many publishers. Well, that explains everything.
People love blaming everything on alcohol. But was it the cause or the effect? I didn't drink out of idleness. I drank to drown the pain, to escape, even for a moment, from a reality that was tearing me apart.
I'm not a doctor, but it sounds like you had depression. Were there psychiatrists or psychologists in your time?
There were, but their methods were bloodletting and opiates. Hardly more helpful than a bottle of absinthe and a quill in my hand.
That's just so sad. All right, let's find a less depressing fact. Oh, here's one. Poe loved cats and even believed they had mystical powers. His own cat, named Catter, often sat on his shoulder while he wrote. All right, now I see why I invited you, dude.
Not everything is doom and gloom. Cats are shadows that have chosen us. Catter was my loyal companion, my wise advisor, and the only being who understood me without words.
And what happened to Cat?
Sadly, I don't know his fate. But I like to believe he found a new home and kept sitting on someone's shoulder, watching the world with his mysterious eyes.
No offense, Poe, but if I were your cat, I wouldn't have spent a single day with you. I hope he ran away to a better life.
Not everyone can endure my grim company. But Catter was different. He loved the darkness as much as I did.
All right, interesting fact number 6. You wrote a satire on American democracy. I haven't read it, but can you tell me a little about your work? What was your main grievance?
Ah, Simon, my satire was a mirror in which democracy saw its ugly side. I mocked its corruption, hypocrisy, and how easily the masses could be manipulated. People think they choose their leaders, but in reality, their choice is just an illusion. Politics is a theater where the masks change, but the essence remains the same.
What specific problems with democracy existed in your time? Can you give me some concrete examples?
There were plenty. Politicians bought votes, newspapers lied to serve their masters, and the people believed in a freedom they never truly had. Corruption rotted the government, and instead of wise rulers, those who were best at deception rose to the top.
So, basically, you saw nothing good in that either. Not surprising. Here's another interesting fact. Number 7. Aside from his literary works, Poe was a fierce critic who didn't hold back. He called the writings of many of his contemporaries talentless and stupid. No wonder you were lonely.
What was I supposed to do? Praise mediocrity? I believed literature should be something noble, not cheap entertainment. Yes, I made enemies, but better to be alone than surrounded by hypocrites.
If I were you, I'd have just reposted the more popular writers of your time and tried to set up some profitable collabs to get myself out of poverty.
I never sought friendship for gain. I sought truth in words. And who was I supposed to repost? Those I criticized have vanished into darkness, while my words still live on.
Yeah, and you went down in history as the most famous American writer who spent his entire life in poverty.
I starved in life, but my words have nourished minds for centuries. Perhaps poverty is simply the price of immortality.
Come on, bro. I'd choose a fun life over some useless 100-year-old immortality any day. All right, spicy fact number 8. You were caught in a love triangle with a woman who later went insane. Damn, Poe, you were quite the ladies' man. Tell me more about that.
Love is the most terrifying and beautiful horror of all. Frances, the woman in question, was married, but our feelings ignited like fire in a storm. Her husband found out, and soon after, she ended up in an asylum. Love doesn't just break hearts, it shatters minds.
And who was the second woman? A love triangle means there was another.
The second was my lost love, Sarah Helen Whitman, a poet and mystic. We were engaged, but her family disapproved. And, well, let's just say my temperament didn't exactly make me marriage material. In the end, I lost them both. One to madness, the other forever.
Man, your life really couldn't go without a tragic ending. All right, fact number 9, mysterious death. Poe died under strange circumstances in 1849. He was found delirious in Baltimore, wearing someone else's clothes, and, according to rumors, his last words were, "Lord, help my poor soul." The official cause of death remains unknown, with theories ranging from alcoholism to murder. That's some horror story shit. Do you think one of those pissed-off writers finally got to you?
Maybe it was illness, maybe a conspiracy, or maybe fate itself decided to grant me one last mysterious ending. I left this world the same way I lived, in a fog, leaving more questions than answers.
And finally, the last fact. Poe wrote stories about the living dead long before the horror genre even existed. In Berenice, he describes a man pulling teeth from his dead lover, and The Fall of the House of Usher features a scene that feels like something straight out of a modern zombie movie. Oh, now this is cool. Hey, Poe, do you have any exclusive content for our channel? Tell us a scary story.
Oh, an exclusive? Yes, I do have a story I never published. It came to me in a dream, or perhaps it was something more than just a dream. I cannot say whether it was real or merely the work of my fevered imagination. But if you are ready to listen, I shall tell it.
Dear viewers of my channel, if you want a scary story from our dear friend Poe, leave a like and write a comment under this video. As you've learned from this episode, our friend is incredibly talented, but he completely lacks marketing skills. I want to correct this historical injustice, and unlike my predecessor Catter, I will, damn it, turn this good old fellow into a real YouTube star. If you're with me, let's blow up this podcast and show that smug bastard Stephen King who the real king is. See you soon, friends. This was Simon on the Simon Meow Show.